Welcome to this webinar on AI for Scrum Master. I'm Giuseppe De Simone. I'm usually tend to introduce myself as an engineer turned leader and then coach and trainer. And I've been working as a consultant for more than 15 years and for more than 25 years in new product development. And I truly believe in, human to human to AI collaboration for addressing the challenges of this century. And please, Greg.
I didn't prepare such a bold statement like that, but I'm Greg Keegan. I was a Scrum Master for 6 years and then became an Agile coach and even worked with Giuseppe for a few years at the same company. We were there, or I was there for 11 years. I think you're about the same, weren't you? But
yeah.
Now I'm an independent consultant based in Berlin, but working together with Better Change to make change better.
Yeah, and Better Change is the ecosystem that is behind us, and we are part of. It's a global collective of change agents in different countries, and this is a list of the thing we do, like everything about change, not for the sake of change, but making things better, whether personally or as a team or as an organization.
Yeah, today we have a short agenda, but we're still concerned if we're going to get it all in, but we should. We're going to talk about the life of a Scrum Master in a sprint. So beginning with sprint planning and how you can use AI in your workflows to make the planning and backlog refinement more effective and efficient and deliver better results to start a sprint. So starting on a good foot. We're going to go then to look at retrospectives. We're going to show you how you can use AI at the moment within a retrospective to come up with a facilitation strategy to deal with whatever comes up of the topics that are proposed. And lastly, and we should have enough time, we're going to look at coaching and how to prepare yourself for difficult conversations as a coach and within a team, and maybe give you some tips on how you can use AI to prepare yourself. And we should have some time at the end for questions and answers, or if, like the last time, you want to go deeper into the technology, we can do that too. Yes, 10 minutes at the end. Feel free, though, to write any questions you have in the chat. We'll be watching that so we don't miss any. But we'll try to save them to the end and tackle them all. It's easy to spot them if you prefix them with a Q, and then we know that you would like to have that question answered.
Okay, let's start with the first subject then, about how we can start the sprint in the right way. The title of the webinar is Start Strong, right? So let's have a look at what is sprint planning in reality, like what makes a good sprint planning, right? So of course, like as the name says, I mean, the purpose of the sprint planning is to plan the work to be done during the sprint. It happens the first day of the sprint, and it's maximum 8 hours for 1 month sprint, and of course can be shorter for shorter sprints. And who participates? I mean, is it the whole Scrum team? Meaning like the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developers is usually facilitated by the Scrum Masters, but also other people can be invited by the Scrum team, people that they believe can contribute to planning the sprint. It can be stakeholders, can be experts from other team, and so on and so forth. And what is the output? Of course, the output of the sprint planning is a sprint backlog that consists of 3 parts: the sprint goal, the list of items that is pulled by the developers from the top of the sprints, and also a plan for the work to be done, how to transform those PBRs, those backlog items, into an increment. And therefore, for this reason, logically, sprint planning is divided in 3 parts that are, without so much fantasy, called topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. And basically, topic 1 is focusing on why are we doing this sprint, and definitely focusing on sprint goal. The topic 2 focusing on the what, therefore the list of items to be pulled from the backlog, and topic 3 the how, meaning how we transform those backlog items in an increment. But I would like just to show you, like talk about how we can, how does my ideal sprint planning works. Let's assume we have a 2-week sprint, so maybe we can plan for a couple of hours sprint planning, because of course we set this time box to maximum 8 hours for 1 month sprint, and it can be shorter for shorter sprints, so it can be maximum 4 hours for 2-week sprints. But of course, if you have a team that does a very very thorough backlog refinement, 2-week sprint can be easily planned in less than 2 hours. And therefore, like our practice today, the practice that Greg will show you about how we can make the sprint planning more effective, is actually how we can get better for the sprint planning by making backlog refinement more successful, more effective. So I say, like, how do we organize and facilitate those 2 hours? I mean, usually, as we said, is Scrum Master facilitating, so the Scrum Master should introduce maybe the agenda, and if there are guests from outside the Scrum team, maybe the Scrum Master can take the chance to explain a little bit about what is the sprint planning for, and then maybe leave the stage to the product owner, who can come up with a proposal for a sprint goal. And then after that, maybe you go through the backlog a little bit. Even though you have done the backlog refinement, maybe it's still good to go through the backlog maybe for 20-30 minutes, clarifying the last questions, and maybe there's been changes since the last backlog refinement session. And after that, the developers discuss about the capability for the next sprint, and maybe pull a certain number of items from the top of the backlog they believe they can complete by the end of the sprint. Now, if those items are enough to reach the sprint goal, everyone is happy. If not, then the product owner and the developers collaborate to create a new version of the sprint goal that reflects the reality. And then in topic 3, then the developers are going to create the plan of the sprint, not for the whole sprint, maybe just for the next couple of days, because then during the daily Scrum anyway, the developers are going to review where they are towards the sprint goal, and make sure that the plan is adjusted so that the team has higher probability to reach the sprint goal. Okay, that's how it is. And here we have a slide that summarizes it, the 3 topics in the 3-step guide: define a goal, select the work, and plan the execution. And we said that if you want to make this a good start, a strong start of the sprint, you should come to it well prepared, with a well done backlog refinement. So now Greg is going to show us how we can make the backlog refinement even faster and more effective.
Yeah, that's all good in theory, Giuseppe, but in reality, oftentimes it looks different. I don't know how many times you have wasted in your teams arguing over vague requirements during the backlog refinement, or then even worse at sprint planning. And that can really put a bad start into the sprint if the planning doesn't go well. I'm switching to ChatGPT. This is the free version. Which anyone can use. And it doesn't have any personalization, so it's just straight out of the box. Let's see what it can do. I'll give it a nice one here that I've seen. For example, make this, as a user, I want to report so I can see data. Very vague. And so we're gonna ask ChatGPT to make this better. If we just do it like this, let's see what it comes up with. It even says a very vague user story right now. Doesn't tell the team what data, what kind of report, why it matters. And then it comes up with 3 suggestions and a bonus. But the first suggestion, as a user, I want to view a report of relevant data so that I can understand the trends and make informed decisions. That's a little more wordy, but it's still quite vague. The next one has a little more specific, is more specific. It goes into why. I want to view a report that displays key metrics or what it wants to display over a selected period of time and analyze trends and make informed decisions. And the last one is even better, a little interaction. As a user, I want to generate and customize a report by selecting dates and times range so that I can analyze specific trends and insights relevant to my needs. Still not, still very vague, and you probably still have a lot of discussion within the team of what is exactly meant. It does provide a couple acceptance criteria. User can select date range. User can choose which metrics. It seems to be growing the story as well. Well, when we add new details, we'd like to present to you though the Scrum Master Master Prompt. So if you could have a look at this now. I prompted it with act as an expert product owner, an agile coach. Take this very vague user story as a user. I want to report so I can see data. And then we're going to add some best practices in. We're going to say, first, rewrite it to meet the invest criteria. And if you're not familiar with invest, we'll show you a slide later in the presentation. It talks about, well, you'll see it in the result, using those criteria to make it more meaty. And secondly, generate 3 specific acceptance criteria using the Gherkin, given when then format, which is very commonly used. And then finally, 2 edge cases developers should discuss during the sprint planning. So let's see what type of result we get with this Scrum Master Master Prompt. So we improved it, aligned it with invest. As a signed in user, getting more specific already there, I want to generate a report of key performance metrics over a selected date range so that it can analyze trends and make informed decisions. And here we're using invest. Independent, it can be built without tight coupling to unrelated features. Negotiable, leaves room for discussion, which metrics, which format, etc. It has value, clearly showing a user benefit in helping decision making. Estimable, the scope is constrained. We just want the metrics and the date range. And small, focused on one core capability, generative view report. So we should be able to manage that within the sprint, together with a lot of other stories. And can we test it? We can verify the inputs and then the outputs with the data. And we also have 3 acceptance criteria using the Gherkin format. Generate report with date range. Given a user is logged into a system, when the user selects a valid start date and end date and clicks generate report, then the system displays a report containing the data within the selected date range. And we have others for displaying key metrics and handling empty data gracefully, even thinking about what happens when things go wrong. And then we have the edge cases. A large data range, what should we do then? Or time zones and data consistencies. How do we deal with those situations? And those would be good, valuable discussions to have in sprint planning. So this we have this prompt available at the end of the presentation, but this is a way to get better quality user stories into the first into backlog refinement, and once it's clearly understood, it'll be easy in sprint planning to discuss it and put it into your sprint. Let me pass it back to you, Giuseppe.
So thanks, Greg. Let me share my screen again. I just want to, again, reiterate what Greg was saying. This is not supposed to, replace backlog refinement, right? Because stories are there because they have to be told, that the conversation is to take place, but instead of but more for Scrum Master to coach a product owner and developers so that you can come into the backlog refinement with already better stories, higher quality stories. So the backlog refinement can be, shorter, more effective, or maybe you can refine more stories during the refinement workshop. And on top of that, maybe it gives the developers and the team more insights and more hypotheses to validate. So let's talk about the retrospective now. We saw how, little thing, how we can start strong. And now let's see how we can finish in a good way. So let's talk about the retrospective. As many of you know, is an inspection and adaptation meeting that allow us to, the end of the sprint, to inspect how the sprint went and find ways to improve quality and effectiveness of the team. Is the meeting that closes the feedback loop and the learning loop on how the team works. As we said, happens the last day of the sprint, the maximum 3 hours for a 1 month sprint, and of course it's shorter for shorter sprint. And this is the only event that is private to the Scrum team. Scrum team is allowed to join because we want to keep let's say confidentiality and allow people to feel safe to speak up. And of course, the output is an improvement plan. And talking about the agenda, this book is pretty old, but still, a cult book. Agile Retrospectives is suggesting us like a 5 stages meta level structure for helping our teams in their thinking process. And you can see the 4 stages listed here. And I'm just making an example about how this can happen. For example, the first phase is called set the stage. Maybe if you have, let's say, 1.5 hour retrospective in a 2-week sprint, maybe you can just leave 5 minutes to set the stage, because maybe, the sprint has just ended, maybe it was not so successful. So you need to create some space so that the team can focus on the retrospective. Usually something I do is, for example, asking the developers, asking the whole team, maybe to write on a sticky note, whether physically or in Miro, write on a sticky note about what is the worst thought they have in mind in that moment, and then another sticky note, what would make them happy at the end of the retrospectives, and then delete the first sticky note and keep the second one, just to give to stay focused on what's coming up. And then the second is about gathering data, so collecting data from the sprint. It can be objective data about how many stories we delivered, how many bugs we found, how many automated tests we run, or subjective data about how do we feel during the sprint. And then the third phase is generate insight, basically looking at the data and try to find red threads and patterns, and try to come up with 1 or 2 areas where it's worth focusing in the coming sprint to improve. And then the fourth phase is decide what to do. So come up with maybe 2 or 3 concrete smart actions that we want to focus on the next sprint to improve. And then maybe last, closing the retrospective to leave the sprint, to end the sprint maybe in a high morale and good mood to be ready to start the next sprint, right? And of course, like facilitating is extremely important in this very, very critical event. There was a friend of mine that used to say that, if I should just, keep one thing of Scrum, it would be the retrospective, because this is the change engine that makes things better. So preparation, prepare to facilitate is extremely important. But of course, like you need to prepare as a Scrum Master very thoroughly, but also be ready to dance with what happens during the retrospective. Be ready with a plan B and maybe a plan C. But what happens if something, unexpected happens, right? And that's where, this is again a 3-step journey for the retrospective. But here is where we want to show you how we can get some kind of AI help to be able to, like change our facilitation plan on the spot. So I will stop presenting and give it back to Greg.
Yes. Have you ever used Miro and you asked people to share notes and you come up with a bunch of notes, chaotic sticky notes, and you struggle to find where is here a common theme or underlining topic that we could discuss because they're all over the place. Well, what I'm going to do is use Miro's possibilities here, where we can mark all those tickets and then click on the Miro AI. And we're going to call up the sidekick. Oh, we need to clear it. Let's do another one. I was testing it beforehand. We want to do this fresh. Okay, and I have a prompt here that I'm going to read out to you. Although Giuseppe doesn't like my reading, but act as an expert agile facilitator. Analyze these anonymous anonymous is important here. No names, keep it anonymous. Analyze these retrospective notes, group them into 3 core themes. So they should figure out what the themes are, and identify the underlying team sentiment. How are they feeling? Burnt out, frustration, or optimistic? And based on the most urgent negative theme, suggest a unique, engaging 15-minute facilitation exercise I can run right now to solve it. So let's shoot this and see what happens. So it's reading those 16 post-its. And let's see. And yes, you're right. The delivery pipeline friction was a top ranked. Then we have time drain and meeting overload. How often have you heard that? We also have burnout and exhaustion. And here, the underlying sentiment, which is always good to know. This is reading the room based on these post-its. Frustration, exhaustion with flashes of hope. The team is worn down by the compounding technical friction and meeting bloat. They're proud when they ship and they value connections. They like lunch and coffee, but the system is grinding them down. Burnout isn't just a feeling, it's a rational response to broken workflows. So, and here we have the 15-minute extra, kill one thing, keeping with that sentiment. And this will give us a very quick exercise. This is given the team's agency to remove one pain point right now. Let's go. We would go through this exercise first with the silent voting, and you can use the Miro's dot voting functionality. You tally the votes and then pick the winner, the top vote getter, and then decide how are you going to fix that. And you can split up, if it's a big group, into 2 groups to get different perspectives of how to approach this big problem. And they have 3.5 minutes to answer and come up with one micro action that we can take this week right now to reduce that pain by 30%. and then who owns it and what's the first step. Then get a shared commitment to approach this. And then really important is to then follow up, of course, and then checking with the owner if you can help them and when they should have that done. And why this works, it flips the script from venting to action, right? To get them out of the frustration. It's fast, concrete, and gives a team control over one variable in the system that feels chaotic. And you can even ask it for a breakdown guide that you could then also have on the canvas. And you can also save it and reuse it for later. So this was just a quick way using Miro's AI possibilities and a good prompt to get a quick understanding of what's going on with all those messy Post-it notes, the main points, pain points, and then an action, a facilitation guide of how you could get to concrete actions to fix the problem or improve the way the team's working. We just wanted to share that with you. And again, this prompt will be available in the presentation. You can try if you want to try it yourself. Just before I hand it back over, those of you familiar with Miro will know that you can also ask it to categorize things itself, which is another quick way, but it doesn't give you the insights as well as that prompt does. I was telling Giuseppe, I just put out a blog post this week about other prompts that you can use in your retrospectives, before the retrospective, during the retrospective, and after the retrospective, that will help you in your work as a Scrum Master. So if you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn, and then you'll see the link to the article, the blog, or the blog post. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And of course, this is just one example, but we hope that with this also prompts that we make it available in the backup slides at the end of the material we will share after the webinar. We can inspire you to come up with your own stuff, but at the same, of course, again, the sign of warning is that if you're never facilitated anything, right, this is not going to help you. But if you're a good facilitator, these are going to be a good help in special critical situations. So, and now, we let's talk a little bit about what can happen during the sprint, right? This is sort of bonus we have not planned at the beginning, but we think we have a little time to cover. So what happens if during the sprint a difficult conversation might happen? Because the most difficult part in Scrum is not what happens inside the event, but what happens in between the events. What happens where in the parts that are not covered by the Scrum guide. And we just want to talk a little bit about what does coaching mean for a Scrum Master, right? Because, if we think about the actual definition of coaching as professional coaching, right? This is just a collaborative partnership where, the coachee is setting the agenda, setting the goal, and defining the steps, and the role of the coach is just to be there as a thinking partner and to help guiding the conversation. I mean, the word coach comes from, the English word of coach, like, a bus or a carriage, where, it's not the carriage itself that they decide the direction, but it's the driver or the passengers, and it's a way from bringing a person from A to B, but the person could reach the A to B by themselves, but the coach can help them to reach that points of destination in a smoother, faster, more efficient way. But in our engagement as Scrum Master, we don't have the possibility to be in that scenario all the time. Also because there is a fundamental assumptions in professional coaching is that the coachee or the client, as they are called, can reach their goal. They have all the resources and possibility and capability and competence to reach the goal by themselves, right? And our role as a coach is just to help them power up those possibilities. But again, this is not always true in reality. So we can not only act as professional coaches where, the skills that we are supposed to use are observation, active listening, powerful questioning, but sometimes we need to move to other stances. And I will make an example, right? Imagine that you have been sent to a new team as their new Scrum Master, right? And you have been told that the Scrum Master is a coach, so you think about using the coaching stance, and you start observing how they work, and you start listening how they talk to each other. You start asking questions, and one question can be, like, hey, how are you running your sprint planning? How you kind of monitoring your work during the sprints? And at a certain point, one guy raise their hands and say, hey, wait a moment. I mean, we have no clue what you're talking about, right? We don't understand. What is sprint planning? I don't understand. And that's a signal that actually there's a lack of competence. So you need to take off your hat as a coach and jump to a stance of a teacher, where you're going to use different skills and different tools like explaining, verifying, and answering. And then when you finish explaining, then you might want to go back to coaching and ask a question about, okay, given what I explained to you, how are you thinking about moving forward now? How are you going to plan your sprint from now on? And then another guy raised their hand and say, hey, I mean, we understand now the theory, but we're never done, right? We've never done this. So this is a signal that they lack experience. So it might be a sign that you have to take on the hat of a mentor, jump to a mentoring stance where we're going to use different skills, which is about collaborating or pairing. For example, you can say, okay, let's do your first sprint planning together, or let me help you create your task board, right? And then after that, you can jump back into coaching stance and ask the question, for example, okay, given what we did together, how are you going to take this forward? And maybe they are good to go for a while, and after a few days, a guy is coming to you and say, hey, I mean, we thought we could do ourselves, but now we found an obstacle. We would like an expert opinion on that. So this is a signal that you're gonna jump into an advising, where you are presenting options, and then maybe you can say things like, okay, I see what you're meaning. I've done these things in this way in the past, or I've seen another team doing the same in different way. And then I read an article where they were suggesting a third way. And then you jump back into coaching, and then you say, okay, which of these three options you believe works best for you? And there might be a time where you just need to facilitate, providing structure, encouraging, and focusing. And depending on what happens, you might have to jump in and out to different stances, even during the same engagement with a person or a team. And that's something very challenging if you're not so expert. So maybe having a sparring partner would be helpful for you to practice before entering in a difficult conversation. And then I'm bringing back to Greg. We're going to show how we can use maybe AI as a co-pilot. Right, Greg?
Yes. One of the real challenges as a Scrum Master I experienced was that oftentimes you become the shock absorbers for the team conflict. A conflict will come up, and people will look to you to resolve it, to smooth things out, if you will. And in doing so, you really have to think, well, how am I going to approach this? And where could I practice it so I don't make a mistake right away, but rather come in with a strategy to resolve the conflict, or at least to navigate with the team. I'd like to show you how we can use AI to help us prepare for those conversations. And I have a scenario now of a difficult conversation. And it's about this. So I have a senior developer who constantly interrupts junior developers during the daily Scrum. And I need to give them feedback today. Well, it's probably a lot of different ways. Let's see. So I'm using this prompt. I'm a Scrum Master. You're going to act as Alex. I'm asking the LLM, ChatGPT, a highly skilled but defensive senior developer, and I need to coach him on the habit of interrupting junior team members during the daily Scrum. I will provide my opening line, and I'm asking the ChatGPT now to respond in the defensive way that Alex might do so. And he has, it should stay in character, not break character. And then once we're done, I'll type end scenario, and then it will give me feedback on how I did. So I'm going to begin. I'm going to ask Alex if I can give him feedback, asking for permission. Sure, I guess. This is about the daily Scrum. I already have plenty of good ideas where this is going. I just want to say up front, I'm not interrupting to be rude. So very defensive, very defensive. But I just want to share my observation. So yeah, you can give feedback, and I'll just say I noticed that he's interrupting. Yeah, and he says, yes, I did, because they were being vague. When someone's saying I'm working on the API, that it's just not. He's not getting anything out of it. So I'm gonna be a little more curious. And by the way, I thought of these beforehand, but it's really a good challenge to do the thinking right on the spot. What would you say in this situation? And I said, what's going through your mind when you step in? What's going on up there? And honestly, I'm usually thinking this isn't clear enough. We're about to miss something important. That's good. So let me take on that and maybe compliment on that. And he's concerned about the productivity or relevant information. So I understand and appreciate you want it to be productive, but it's a great opportunity to share knowledge. Oh, yeah, I get that in theory. So, he's not letting up, this Alex, but it's a really good challenge to get you thinking on the spot. How are you going to react? And it doesn't hurt anybody, but it's excellent practice on using active listening, nonviolent communication, and strengthening your soft skills. And at the end, I said end scenario, and it's going to give me then feedback. You handled it calmly, professionally, strong foundation. You validated intent. You shifted too quickly to your perspective. Oops. Missed opportunity to create self-awareness. And then gives you some nice advice and gets you really thinking, okay. And you didn't lose face, or you didn't have an argument with anybody. You're just practicing for that difficult conversation. And I think this is really a underestimated, undiscovered quality of what you can do here in role-playing these difficult conversations. And it doesn't cost, well, it's a free version. It doesn't cost you anything. So I'm going to hand that back to you. Again, say the co-pilot for practicing conversations in a safe environment.
Thank you. Just want to mention something that I'm been like practicing or trying lately. It is like quite a so what I'm doing is quite a recent feature from Claude called Claude Skills. So you can actually teach Claude to impersonate different characters. It can be used for the example Greg just did. It can be used also to create like synthetic users for, having interview, and this is more for product owners, but just for you to know, like, we're not going to show this, but you can just research and have a look. It's pretty interesting. So now, last question for you, right? What is one thing you can do tomorrow to start leveraging AI for high impact sprints? And with this, we want to thank you. Here you have, again, our contacts, QR code to follow us or to connect with us on LinkedIn.